ready.
When everyone is watching,
SCV ready.
judging
Not
your
enough
every
minerals.
move,
Go ahead.
the pressure feels so real. Is this the right way?
Ready.
But when you know yourself
Insufficient rescue gas.
and love what you
Overtime.
do, nothing can stop you.
Got no patience for shit around.
It's your life.
What's going
Do
on?
your thing. Find your way. I'm finding mine with BDO.
All right, so we're continuing on with my personal build here, which is Dusty. It's already been sitting out here long enough. But as I showed you in the last video, we clearly went with we got a blue and purple sort of a theme that's gonna happen with all the lighting, which is why we called it Nebula. And I don't know if I publicly said that on the video. I know I said it on Twitter, but we're calling it Nebula, both after the MCU character, you know, Thanos' half biological, half mechanical daughter, as well as just because the lighting looks like a nebula you'd see in space.
Wait, so does that mean you're Thanos?
Commander.
As you can see here, we've got a bit of a bling bling thing going on. And a lot of you were kind of like, dude, what are you gonna do for the tubes? Dude, glass tubes. Nope, I've got something better. The Coffee and 54X gaming headset is now available at drop. The lightweight design and custom fitting sling headband ensure comfortable prolonged use for those long gaming sessions, while the drivers deliver surprisingly clean sound, making your favorite gaming sound awesome. Closed-back design with a straight sound isolation means you won't disturb your neighbors, while the excellent value means you won't disturb your wallet. To learn more, click the link to the drop below. How about chrome-plated brass tubes? That's how you bring the bring to your build. The bring. So anyway, what we're looking at right here is actually Alpha Cool's hard tube, because the naming is so original. We're not doing the full loop today. We're gonna probably we'll hook together the graphics cards just so you can kind of see what it looks like in there. But what I want to do is I want to test some of their new fittings, because the problem with brass tubing, wow, okay, hold on. Each one of these boxes is one. I like the way Bits Power does it. They're just in little Ziploc baggies that you can just tear open, not deal with all this wasted cardboard. So these are 13 millimeter outer diameter. I like 13 millimeter tube over 14, especially when it comes to metal, because the actual diameter of the inside doesn't really make a difference to, and this looks ugly like this because I've already cut and sanded, I've already done some testing. This is what it actually looks like. It's a nice smooth edge that has nickel plating that goes into the inside a little bit. But as you can see, when you cut it, it is definitely brass tubing. But Jay, don't mix your metals. Brass is fine. That's why just about every fitting is brass when it comes to home construction and stuff. And then you have copper piping and all that sort of stuff. Brass is fine. This is 13 millimeter by 10 millimeter, which is the same size PETG, like the PETG stuff that I like to use. There's not a lot of fitting options at 14 millimeter. And not only that, Alpha Cool makes 13 millimeter clamping compression fittings. And I say clamping because it's slippery, it's really smooth. And so the problem is, at least the way that Alpha Cool was explaining it to me, is their compressions are designed specifically for this kind of tube. And I said, well, I'll probably just use the Primo Chill 13 millimeter because they've got this really thick O-ring, which has always clamped down really good on like PETG and stuff. And they were like, well, we're gonna send you our fittings anyway. Try them out, tell us what you think, because you'll find that the O-ring itself is probably not gonna be enough. And as the heat goes up and the pressure does build, because it does build pressure inside the system. Anything that's sealed and has a temperature change from hot to cold or cold to hot has an increase of pressure and a decrease in pressure. It's not on camera, but I actually was demonstrating to Nick once when he was working for me what happens if you hold a heat gun on a radiator with the pump going and no fans. It popped the tube right off the pump and sent like a 10-foot wall of water going straight up for a few seconds. And he was doing he didn't know what to do. He was like, I'm gonna get a towel, I don't know. Alpha Cool has been shocking the ever-living crap out of me for the last year or so. One of the first companies I ever worked with, in fact, the first water cooling company I ever worked with was Alpha Cool. The problem was they were very notorious for things coming scratched and dented. And I got to the point where I actually told them, guys, I can't work with you anymore because I can't keep promoting a product that scratches and dents and stuff. They promised years ago, about 5 years, almost 6 years ago, that they're changing their manufacturing, they're redoing everything, and that they'll win me back. Well, they have. What's funny is other brands that have been known as being the industry leader have fallen off in quality over the years. And that's what happens when you become complacent. You stagnate and everyone else catches up and passes you, which is what we're all hoping happens to NVIDIA. But I digress again. So here are the fittings. Here's the Primo Chill 13 by 10. Here's the Alpha Cool 13 by 10. Right off the bat, one of the things that I really like here is if you look inside the Alpha Cool fitting, it's a hex head. So if this gets stuck, you don't have to take pliers to the outside of the threads to turn it. You can just grab a hex head Allen key and tighten it and loosen it. As you can see here, the Primo Chill is just made up of the main fitting. It's got the part that the tubing actually goes in. It's got one clamping O-ring, one collar. If you look at the Alpha Cool stuff, you've got an inner O-ring in there. Notice that inside the Primo Chill, there is no inner O-ring. So the inner O-ring is responsible for sealing it. You've got this collar, which as you can see is tapered. And you see how it's also split? So what this does is as you tighten down the collar, this squishes together and pushes against the actual metal. You then have this plastic washer. You then have another O-ring responsible for the compression or the friction of pulling the tube out.